Hello and welcome to day 2 of the God is a Geek Game of the Year 2022 deliberations. The GOTYs are back. The GOTYs, the Gaggadies. Yes, the Quagmire Gaggady. Yeah. Hello, Chris. How are you? Chris Hyde, that is.
I'm good. Gaggady.
Indeed. How are you, Chris White?
Good, thank you.
Lyle Carr.
Pretty good, yeah. I'll keep the streak going.
And, yeah, pretty good. That's good to hear. And Mick Fraser, how the devil art thou?
I'm always giggity.
Yeah, that's true. True. Well, and in tradition, chaps, what are you rocking? That's the new tradition for this year. Chris Hyde, what are you rocking in terms of beverage? Let's go for it on the video. So give him something. Okay, it's water. Okay. Chris White, what have you got? You were rum yesterday.
It's a big
massive,
old Vimto.
big boy Vimto bottle, sparkling. That's
Are you going
always
to
a
be
concern.
necking from bottle?
Yeah.
Good lad.
Oh, yeah.
Of course,
I
he
drink
is.
out the glass too fast, so I'm just pouring all the time. So I just thought, I'll neck that bottle.
Fair enough. Mick Fraser, what are you rocking? Tradition.
I've got mango, strawberry, and pineapple Vimto.
Goodness me.
And,
He's sponsored by Vimto.
and I just finished a tea, and I've got my Lush banana flavoured milk. So that I'm
Bloody
going to
hell.
probably be ill.
What's
at
that?
some point.
Banana what?
Milkshake.
Banana milkshake.
My God, you're
Tea, milkshake, and fizzy Vim.
That's
you're
just
gonna
that's just
vomit
out since
halfway through.
earlier. So that's.
Oh, it's just been out. It's just been out getting warm.
only for the last like 20 minutes.
room
but,
temperature milk and fizzy Vimto.
And the Vimto I've only got
That's
because
the
I
dream.
opened that like this morning, and my daughter just brought me it and said, "Can I finish your Vimto?" And I said, "No, you can't."
So flat warm
Do
Vimto.
you know what? It's better if we don't address any of that, I think, and ask Lyle, what are you rocking, Lyle?
I am on the original dry cider served chilled by Sainsbury's.
The original, you say?
That is in no way affiliated to Strongbow.
Is it
in any
Vimto?
way.
No, look, it's dry cider
definitely
served
not
chilled
Strongbow.
Sainsbury's. Totally
It's good.
different.
I'm with you as well, but from a glass. But I have got Professor Peppy. That's what I've got.
Oh, yeah.
I see. Professor Peppy.
Which, if you're not in the UK, is basically Aldi's version. Aldi's at a supermarket that's cheaper and does a lot of knockoff stuff, and it's Dr Pepper. It's actually nicer. Just
The
saying.
name's better as well.
Professor Pepper's
Peppy.
tradition, just
drinking
superb.
proper
Great
Peppy.
name.
And just as a chaser, I've joined the Hyde Club. So,
Yes.
but we can't talk
H2O.
about
Nice.
beverages all day because we're not a beverage-based podcast. We're here
wish.
to talk about best audio and best visuals. And what better way to kick it off than to look back before we look forward? Well, to look. We'll still be looking back, actually, technically speaking, because it's this year's. But best audio last year. Anyone want to guess?
Oh, no.
What was the last?
Do, baby.
Oh, it takes two.
two.
of course.
Isn't that
Of
best
course it
everything
was.
last year?
Because it won everything.
Yep, it might have done. It Takes Two won it with Returnal, great game. Deathloop, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, and Forza Horizon 5 following it up. But the nominations for...
Not at all.
No, good list, a very good list. The nominations for Best Audio, there's quite a few of them, so let's just chuck through the list. The Last of Us Part 1, Rainbow Six Extraction, Metal Hellsinger, The Diofield Chronicle, Cuphead The Delicious Last Course, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Freezer Pops, Overwatch 2, Neon White, A Plague Tale Requiem, Horizon Forbidden West, The Quarry, God of War Ragnarok, The Callisto Protocol, Jack Move, and Soundfall. There's your starter
Freezer
for...
Pops?
Are we really
I
going to
assume
do
it's
this
a loyal
right
game,
away?
obviously.
Well, no, we'll do another game
I
first.
feel like
Totally
we should
different.
build up to Freezer Pops a little bit, like, but you know, just if nothing else, just to get the first 10 minutes of this podcast on YouTube without a copyright strike of some description.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea.
You know,
Freezer
let's
Pops.
just ease into it,
It's
keep
just
the
gonna
C
stay there
bombs
for a little
down.
while.
I mean, look.
Overwatch 2.
What? I was just about to say,
I
he's
haven't
gonna.
played it. I'm just going to ask. Like, why is it special? I don't. You know, I'm not a big aficionado of game audio. Like, if it's good in the earphones, I like it. So I'm asking why Overwatch 2's on the list. What's special about its audio compared to some things that I can see on there, like Metal Hellsinger, which is obviously based around audio? Or
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's
Soundfall.
best audio. It just means it's got. You could. Just to be clear, this is not best soundtrack.
Right, I'm not. That's why.
Overwatch 2.
All
Tell me.
Mick has done is say Overwatch.
What I'm
2.
saying is,
I'm just touchy. I'm touchy. All right.
It's very you are.
It got very
That's the name of the
defensive straight
game.
away. I literally just asked.
Adam started flipping tables.
I mean, I went for Freezer Pops. You said no, so I went.
I
to the
didn't
next
say
one
no
on
to
the
Freezer
list.
Pops. I just didn't want to get copyright strikes.
Okay, so
Overwatch 2. is
Why is it really, really, really good audio?
because they redid most of it. Like all there's like all the call outs and stuff you get from heroes as you're playing the game. They re-recorded loads of them, and it's one of those things where when you're playing it, it's when you play a remaster of a game. And we talked about it a bit yesterday, where you sort of, in your mind's eye, well, this is what it always looked like, right? And you go back and then you play the original, you're like, oh no, okay, they did a lot of work on this. This looks really, really good now. Like, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. It kind of does
They're
that.
even better. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of does that, but with audio. So that there's all these voice lines, and I know, Chris, I can't remember. I know you played the Overwatch 2 as well, but you had played the original, hadn't you?
Me?
Yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
Chris White.
Yeah, man. I've got something to add afterwards about the voice lines.
Well, I wonder if you got the same feeling I had, where like you're playing it and then you hear a voice line that was in the game always.
Yeah.
But it's like because they've redone it. It's kind of it's almost that uncanny valley of like, oh, that's
It's like when an old artist decides to re-record new music and it sounds slightly differently.
Yeah.
But like the voice lines, like some of the best voice lines are before the match has even started, when you're just chilling out in the room and two characters having a full-on conversation with each other.
That's what they kind of do their lore, don't they? A lot of it.
It adds to the lore between certain relationships because there's a lot of like different factions within Overwatch, but you never know unless you watch the animated shorts or the kind of stuff they do online. Which is a cool way to...
shorts and don't play the game.
Yeah, but they're like...
I'm a sucker for the animated shorts.
They're really cool.
I don't play Overwatch.
I'd agree it should stay for now at least. Because
I mean,
done a lot with the audio.
I'm not here saying I'm definitely, absolutely colours to the mast. This is making our top 5, but I don't really feel like it should go first because I think it is. Like being a shooter as well, like another thing that's worth mentioning. We haven't got Call of Duty in this list. I don't know if it should be or not.
Yeah.
But in similar way, footsteps, like you can hear in your headphones the footsteps of characters, but they're also, because of the way Overwatch is, because the different heroes are very different. The footsteps are very different, and I think you can probably identify. Oh, there's like I was playing I can't remember who I was playing as, but there was I think it was I can't even remember who it was that I was playing against, but it was very clearly them every time hiding around a corner and then tip tap tip tap. I was like, fuck, before they killed me, I heard the footsteps and knew it was too late, and it was like. I'm not saying it definitely makes a top 5 because of that, because some of that is kind of an ever-present for a first-person shooter. Now, we've hit that peak of kind of production values where if you don't have that, it's more noticeable than if you do have that. But I still do... I'm sure there's an easier cut than that, no?
Probably, I don't know.
I'll cut one.
Okay.
Well,
there's only one or two on there that I really would jump up and down.
I'm not really remembering the audio in the Direfield Chronicle.
I thought you added that.
The same thing.
Stand out. I didn't add it. No.
I don't know who did then. Maybe I didn't.
That's
by mistake. Okay. Well, if anyone's,
I
haven't played it, so I need to hear.
It's fantastic, but audio, like I can't remember what stood out.
I'm sure it sounded all right.
It's got some good music, and the voice acting's all right.
To be fair, I might know why.
This year's been one for box quotes. Lyle Carr, I'm sure it sounded all right.
Like the sound, I know it's not just about soundtrack, but there was is it Ramid Dewali who did the Game of Thrones soundtrack of Westworld.
That's what it is.
He did the music along with one of his collaborators, and then the voice acting was pretty decent, but like it didn't stand out. Like
no, cut it. Yeah, it's gone.
Okay. What about Jack Move? Okay, only because I haven't played it. So what's?
I'm kind of with you a little bit.
I think you're probably right. It had a really cool soundtrack. The end of battle theme especially was absolutely brilliant. Like it's a nice sort of cyberpunk type setting, so it's got sort of like a electronic, but I mean it's not bringing a lot other than just a good soundtrack. And it's very good when you're playing the game, but it's probably not top 5. I'm fine to get rid of it.
I think as the only other person who's played it, I'm with you. No, I won't go because someone else keep cutting people. I've got one that I think might be a little bit spicy, so I'll save it. Shall I save it or should I just
go for it? Just do it.
Let's go for it. Keep it flowing.
I'm not sure why Neon White's on here.
I think maybe just the soundtrack. The
Very
soundtrack's not bad.
Again,
Yeah,
great game, but
like
I don't...
audio itself, you're not blown away by it. But I think the music. Was
yeah, it has a
decent,
great
so-
soundtrack. I really like it when you're speedrunning, it's just the right sort of like.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
music
I do
for
think
that.
there's a lot of like the anime "huh" and what and what.
That's
like,
what I was
that
sort
of
shit
thinking
going
about,
on,
like-
which is a bit off.
Yeah.
Do that again.
You know what I mean?
No,
You
I know
know
exactly what you
It-
mean.
it-
Mhm.
They
we
all
emote
do.
with like grunts and noises, don't they? But I think it like the soundtrack was good.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. Like, it's a great game, but I don't remember thinking, "Wow, the audio
Yeah,
was amazing."
I don't really remember. I remember the voice acting not being bad, but I don't necessarily remember it being amazing either. If you know what I mean, like somewhere in the middle. But yeah,
I think it was pretty standard. It reminded me of The World Ends with You. The way
that's fair.
Yeah.
So that was not a spicy cut then, by the sounds of it.
no, yeah, go for it.
I have another spicy cut in the locker. I don't know if
I've got a question about a game.
I wonder if it's what I was going to go on.
It might be, I don't know. But The Last of Us Part 1.
It is. Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, the audio, it was amazing in the original. And
Yeah.
I don't, it's not about like, it's a bit of a different conversation to best remake or re-release. It's like the audio, what has been improved and
I'm
enhanced?
not sure.
They haven't recorded new voice lines.
I would
as
suspect.
far as I'm aware.
I would suspect there's 3D audio.
Right, okay.
But I
if you're not
can't
listening-
actually-
If you're not playing on
No.
the telly, you're not going to know that.
No, it's with the, for the PlayStation headset. The
Yeah, so
I don't know.
So what is that? Like the
I
audio
would-
is incredible, but is it fair when there's other games
I
that
was
are brand
just
new?
this is what I was going to ask. Is it no one's saying it's bad. That's the audio. They're Naughty Dog. Holy
No.
shit.
No.
Holy shit.
Not
But
even
it does
slightest.
seem a bit like these are all new games, and I know that's and it kind of. I mean, this one, didn't it? I don't want to spoil in case someone's listening. I am going to spoil it by saying that
Probably.
one best remaster yesterday. So it,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
I'll be
think you
honest, when I
could.
saw it did feel a little bit like, ooh, like.
But
not
all these
really
other games are
bad
new.
at all.
Yeah, I think that's a fair cut. I think that's all right. I mean, it's had
Nodding
it's
to the
getting
same principle. I think
it's
that's-
getting its due, that game, from us, and I
Yeah.
think it's fair that this might not be its category. You know what I mean? So I don't
Yeah.
know.
I do wonder though, are we going to have that same discussion in the next category? But we'll see. It's
Yeah,
gone
maybe
for now.
actually. Yeah.
It's gone for now.
Okay. I might have one that you'd probably not expect from me, but what do we think that anyone who's played it, that Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course, did differently to regular Cuphead in terms of soundtrack? Because I love the soundtrack to those games / that DLC, but I'm not sure if I could say like, oh, this definitely makes the top 5 when it's more of the same almost. Like, it's great, but
I mean,
But where do we
arguably,
land
arguably, like, well, actually, maybe not. Well, let's say there is an argument you could put forward if you wished to say that really, really good DLC in this vein does feel like it was always part of it. I mean, you
Yeah.
could also make the opposite argument and say they took this content out to make it DLC. They did. They clearly didn't in this case. Like, it
Oh,
took
no, definitely
forever.
not.
Oh, but it really feels wrong to just.
It does. I
But
agree with you, and that's me putting it forward. Like,
So good.
hmm
But you're right.
Is it
I
like
mean,
is it the audio or soundtrack again? That's the question.
Well,
is
it's
it
the audio, it's the
or is it the
announcer,
audio
like-
that does
it has
something
nice sound
special?
effects.
It does,
for
the
them and
sound
stuff
effects,
as well. But like if this was the first time Cuphead audio had
Yes,
come up
okay.
ever, I'd fight for it. But now I'm kind of like, it's
Oh, it
mainly
does.
more of the same.
even the announcer. I know I think there's a few more lines, but it is
Yeah, there is a
the
couple more.
announcer. It's
Mhm. It's great. It is great, and it's definitely getting its due. But like,
best audio. Is it best? It's like I'm trying to almost put horse blinkers on and go. No one's saying the game's bad.
no,
No one's saying anything about the game. They're just saying, is it best audio? And it's like, it's probably not, is it?
probably not.
It's almost like therapy that he's the one that's got to press the delete button.
Yes, I know.
So we
can
have a go.
someone-
It's fine.
Can someone tell me what Freezer Pops is then? Because I do not know.
It's
what
probably been long enough now, right?
Let's get on with it, because there's someone here now that I'm getting really twitchy about cutting. So
Yeah,
Me
I know
too.
that's fine.
I'd like to
Yeah.
know what Freezer Pops is.
Freezer Pops. Freezer Pops is a Brazilian gay dating sim. And
That's not what
I'm so weird. Right.
So
What I
weird.
wanted when Mick was taking a swig there.
Yeah,
I know.
Chris White did, but Mick to do it, that would have been
I was
brilliant.
hoping for it.
I was watching it.
Banana milkshake.
I was watching it with like Mr. Editor and production head on and go, this couldn't be any more perfect. I haven't got to do anything. He's already taking the swig of milkshake. This could happen. We could go viral, lads.
Yeah.
No.
I was kind of ready for the Brazilian gay dating
if I'd been saying it, or like maybe you'd have gone like, but I think because
maybe I'd
Kyle
have been
was explaining
shocked,
it, you were
but
sort
when
of
Lyle-
Damn it.
But this could be anything.
You know, it could be a game about anything, like shit being wiped up off a brick wall with a towel or something. Like this could be dock leaves or anything. Yeah, no.
It could be anything.
Anyway, a Brazilian gay dating simulator. Is it actually specifically Brazilian, or did I make that up?
No, it was developed by a Brazilian developer.
Okay.
It's Brazilian. About selling freezer pops on the beach. But the thing that's important about the soundtrack is this is the first game I've ever played that has a semen sound effect for when your character ejaculates. And it does like a fun squelchy noise at the end of sex scenes. And I've never experienced that in a game.
Mixed face. I thought he'd be the
Mick
opposite of that.
suddenly wants this as number one.
I'm genuinely trying to recall now, and it hasn't been that long.
What?
If that makes an audible sound.
No. See,
when
here's
it
the thing.
happens.
We've had this discussion on the.
Yeah,
this,
we
this
did
is
have this discussion on
exactly the.
pod. Yeah, we did.
Not to say we're like a hive mind, but that is the exact
I mean,
discussion
I know
we
you
had.
do the fat noise.
Yeah, but
I don't think
but they're like it's
I don't think
cartoonified,
there's-
isn't it?
Yeah,
Can I
I don't
just
think
say,
there's a noise that is like.
Mick's supplementary sounds so far in this pod have been top draw.
I don't believe.
No,
it makes
listen,
actual noise.
No, this
like,
is what
I've
I
never
said.
been heard from the next room.
It
No, they've been like,
no,
what was
it
that?
doesn't.
It's
It's
a
like
burst water main.
Yeah.
That was me.
you've just never done.
down.
You've never done enough, mate. That's all. It's what I'm hearing.
Oh,
Oh,
must be it.
I don't know. I took a couple of eyes out, but I've never had anyone complain about the sound.
Yeah. Amazing.
Well, there
I'm
you
glad I
go.
brought
There's the demonetization on YouTube sorted. Shall I delete it now?
Yeah, you probably can. Very memorable audio, though.
Oh, very memorable.
I can
audio.
imagine so. Yeah.
Jesus. Okay.
He doesn't make freezer pops from that, does he?
He doesn't know. That would be a very different game.
I had to ask the question. I mean,
Yeah.
somebody was
question.
thinking it.
You were thinking it.
Well, one of the watchers or listeners will be thinking it.
Yeah,
You know what
maybe.
they're like. Be honest.
Soundful.
Yeah, I was worried about this.
Oh, this is another one of Lyle's. Look,
Well, no, I played it too, and I think Chris.
I did
Chris White
briefly
played
play it,
yeah.
and it told me
I
I was
played
out
it.
of time, and I was used to be a drummer, and it pissed me off.
I like that.
So I was like,
story
"Fuck
already.
you, game."
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy with that.
My
I was
reason,
like, I'm
for,
not
my
out of
reason for
time. I
cutting
know what
it
an
is.
offbeat is. Fuck off.
The reason for cutting it is
Sorry, carry
again.
on.
I think we're talking soundtrack. Like I can't think of anything else. I can't think of any
You would
other
be
sounds in that
talking
game.
soundtrack for that game.
No,
And I
really.
would argue the soundtrack is so varied, which is good, but also means it's someone like me can never go. I'd vote for that because the soundtrack's just for me because it's not meant to be just for me. It's supposed to be.
Yeah. I think
a varied soundtrack.
I mean, what I liked about it so much was basically that it wasn't the soundtrack you normally get from rhythm games, really. They really did go for very varied genres. And yeah, it was interesting. And obviously, the music's a big part of the game because it's
Of course.
a rhythm game. But
course.
I think it's fair to cut it too. Like, I'm not too precious about it.
Fair enough. Chris.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I wonder if you might lump Metal Hellsinger in kind of the same. Like, it's got a great soundtrack, and
I feel that
the
one's
audio is
almost
part of the
cheating.
game.
Yeah, but a lot of
Well,
their audio
maybe,
is like.
maybe.
No, I mean it would be cheating to keep it purely because it's got like songs written. How to describe it? Like, I mean, Chris White, you played it, you reviewed it, but it's got like real, very well-known artists. You know what I mean in the game. With it just, I don't know. I can't articulate.
Yeah,
it.
I get what you're saying. I would like to say fair play to him for not just because it's not just a song plays from start to finish.
No, it's
Like
always
it's a
stems and
piece of
seeds.
music where the better you play, the more you hear. So that can happen at any point. There's lots of different points where you can build your combos, and then when you reach that 16 plus fury, you hear the lyrics kick in, and there's some great songs on this soundtrack. So when that kicks in, that pumps you up, guys. Makes you want to play better.
I always love it when games do that. JRPGs do that a lot, and it's cool. I know it's a different type of game, but when you're doing well in a boss fight or something, and it changes the audio, I just love that.
I think
if you do shit and it suddenly just goes, oh crap.
The main issue I had with Metal Hellslinger was that I very rarely got the good parts of the songs. It just went badly.
It's a great use of audio, like as opposed to necessarily whether the audio itself is amazing or not. The way they use it is very interesting, and more so than like yesterday. I compared it to bullets per minute, and this is slightly different to that in that the music is kind of always going in bullets per minute, and you just work to the music. Whereas this kind of rises and falls with what you're doing, which is a little bit different.
I mean,
and arguably more impressive.
It's sort of really up to Chris White. I mean, I will say for me, there's 4 games on this list that I feel particularly strong about. 4. And my 5th would be could be any really, if that makes sense, of a few. I just wonder, would Metal Hellsinger be on your 5?
It might be the tail end of the list of my 5, but I also have games on here that would beat it. And if no one else is bothered, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But it was an incredible soundtrack. A great game, Eric. I really liked it.
Indeed. Anyone else got any?
I don't think there's any easy cuts left. Let's put it that way.
We're whittling it down, aren't we?
There's a couple there I haven't played at all, so I'd ask about those, but not to suggest cutting them necessarily, just because. I
have a question because I have heard that this game that I haven't played has worse audio in some ways than its prequels, and that's Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
So what I think you're referring to is okay. So when I've been asked about this every week on the pod by Mick, when we talk about soundtrack, what I know. I love the Xenoblade Chronicles music style, right? All of the games, and there's normally, I think I referred to it as a banger in some of the other games, where it's like a rousing one, right? And there isn't really a rousing one outside of like the combat themes. There's normally like a environmental rousing one that I'd normally like go back to and listen to because I've got nothing else to do with my free time. Drown out the sound of my screaming child or something. But and there is a lot of the music. Environmental music in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is more softer. So,
but I think that's intentional. That's not them making a mistake.
That's my point. So for me, it's not worse. It's just different.
Agree.
And I was expecting because it happened in both other games. I was expecting to get to a new area of some description at some point, and they just hit me with like
it almost goes to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna... But I want to back you up a little bit. I don't know if this makes the 5, but just to back up what you're saying, because we've said about other games, it's not just the soundtrack. I would actually argue the opposite of what I know. To be fair, Lyle isn't saying that. He's saying he's
no, I don't have a fucking clue.
No, but I would argue that in terms of like the voice acting, for example,
I wanted to get to that.
Far better.
The voice acting is far better in this game, and what I'd also say, and I think I've said it before in the other pods, the local translation of this game is fantastic. You know, the colloquialisms of like UK colloquialisms and stuff. People saying scran and vom.
I've never actually heard anyone know. I
know
was
it
surprised.
Sounds stupid, but there's loads of others I can't remember. But it's like
snuffing.
Yeah, I mean that's like the nature of it. But it's like there's so much stuff like that that just adds to the depth of the conversations that the characters are having. Whereas normally you get like the kind of by the book translations and stuff doesn't quite land. Whereas this very much feels like, I mean, I don't know what language it was written and translated into, but you can't tell it's a translation because of all the kind of colloquialisms and stuff between the different characters. So I would argue this, out of all of the 3 games in the series,
I think it's the best.
It is the best.
Well, I mean, I literally said in the review of it that it's the best one yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, but I wasn't specifically talking audio. It would be a 5 or 6 on this list for me. So Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's got the call outs like when they're running around. Like wants a meaty one or whatever. The
yeah.
Like
it's,
I would
it's
argue...
the things for me. It's the interactions. You know, whether it's the you talked about it in Overwatch, obviously, but this is like dialed up to 1 million because of the amount of it, right? But it's for me, it's that and how much it adds to the I guess the story and the immersion, because it feels very real. It doesn't feel like forced off the cuff conversations because of how well it's kind of translated and delivered. Quite frankly, that it feels it's well delivered. The dialogue as well. So I feel strongly about it staying certainly for now. There are some.
No, there's. Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? And because at some point you sort of have to pull the band-aid a bit, don't you? If I have a question for you guys, and like the answer could mean we just cut one very easily. Is anybody else apart from me wanting Overwatch in the 5?
It's not in my.
No, not really.
Because I haven't played it. And
but that's
so,
fair. Still,
it's in mine.
It is in yours.
Need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no. So
not quite yet. So what?
Right.
So then, if I'm honest with you, looking at the list again, you can only look at it from your own perspective. But as I look at it now, the only one left that I'm like probably is an obvious cut is the Quarry.
I was wondering about the Quarry too.
So okay.
See, I was, because I assumed as a horror game that the audio would be a big.
And it is, and there's a few things to this. One, the soundtrack is the best of a Supermassive game. It very much dials into the kind of like, sort of like 80s, sort of almost 80s, early 90s. I can't tie it down exactly in terms of the vibe of the soundtrack it uses there, to kind of get into the whole like, like teen horror.
But I'd argue that's
what you did last summer type.
That's a mistake, like because there's like people walking around with mobile phones and looking at like doing vlogs and stuff. So it's like
I guess.
I mean, that's not the reason why for me it's on there. To be honest, I think the voice acting in this game is very good. Mm-hmm. By far the best. It almost makes the dark pictures look a little bit bad in that respect. I think some of the character interactions are really good and really, really well written. And so for me, it's kind of that combined with, I guess, like you say, like the tense horror moments as well, and then the high energy werewolf moments, which I don't want to spoil right now because I don't think we need to.
No, we don't.
But it's like for me, there are numerous arguments to it. It's not just us just started with the soundtrack, but that's why I want to on here. I acknowledge that if you go like you do with Overwatch 2 and go around the room, I imagine at least 3 people are going to go. Don't care. But I wanted to mention. I don't
think it's so much that because, like I said to you and I said on the podcast, that it's probably my favourite game of theirs since. Do you know what? I'd say there's an argument it might be better than Until Dawn.
I think it's my favourite
one.
I think it might be their best game. I think it might be their best game, and I thoroughly enjoyed it in a way that, like, with their stuff, I've never sat down and been like, "Oh my god, I've just smashed this in a couple of days." I'd argue, like I say, where Until Dawn came from sort of nowhere in that we weren't getting games that production values that high. This came along when they've been doing it, but it's by far, like I think I said on the pod, or maybe to you in private, that like if I were Bandai Namco, who are behind them for the Dark Pictures, I'd almost be pissed off.
And worried.
Like, what the fuck's going on here? You went and worked with 2K, and this game's like better in every regard.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, you don't know. Maybe 2K bankrolled it. We don't know.
No.
So it's absolutely not a case of me going, I don't care, because I do care, and I really want more.
Flippant, but I guess, I'm well. It was more. This was never going to make a group top 5. I don't believe. And when I look at the other games, I can completely agree why that's the case.
Would it beat out Xenoblade for you?
What's that?
Would it beat Xenoblade for you out of interest?
No.
See, that's the thing. It wouldn't for me. No. I mean, I don't really want to show my hand, but there's a lot on here. It just isn't.
Yeah, I know it doesn't, and so I would be more. God, happier. God, think of the words. More happy. I was going to say,
accepting.
I'd be happier for this to be cut than Xenoblade at this stage. I'd want to talk about some other things before we cut Xenoblade. I'd be really nervous to cut that right now.
Are we allowed to go the other way and suggest a lock yet?
Are we removing the Quarry?
I think so, yeah.
Sorry, Chris.
I'd kind of say at this point you have to have multiple people championing it. I think, and I don't think we're in that position. Whereas I think there's some other games on this list we're going to be.
It'll come back later in the week.
I think, I think with we've got 7 games left. I mean, just move 2. I think this is definitely a worthwhile hearing if people are like, I feel strongly that this should be a lock, just to get the vibe, perhaps.
There's 2 on there that I.
Well, no, let's not start doing 2 because
I'm not.
5 on there that I'd like to lock.
There's at least 7 I want to lock.
There's one that I would suggest.
Well, what's your one that is like this has to be the lock for me?
Requiem.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I can totally understand that. Okay. Is anyone else
just studying Mr. Carr's poker face there?
I mean, for me, obviously, I can't really argue that hard about Plague Tale because I didn't play enough of it to hear much of the audio because I really didn't like it. But the audio could be great. Like, it's
I would
fine.
argue that it's difficult because I know some people just come to the channel and the podcast for these podcasts, so they might not quite know the story of why. But what I would say is go back, listen to the podcast. If we need to go through it again, we can. But I feel like at the time where you described your issues with that game, we all totally acknowledged it, and it's valid. It is also a very specific case.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And I'm not saying that doesn't make it valid. I really want to be clear about that.
Oh, totally, 100%. But the issue was the amount of whispering.
Yes, which there is. There is.
Yeah, because there's loads of whispering in the game, and
as regards which audio,
which my partner has an issue with. It's like a thing that's, I can't remember the name of it now. I memorized it for the last podcast, so go back and I'll sound much more intelligent on this.
Is it misophonia?
I think it is misophonia, yeah.
There you go.
You Googled that.
I did, of course I did. Yeah. I'm not going to lay claim to that.
I remember.
No, like Chris
should be on his word of the day, toilet paper.
I am essentially...
Eidetic memory from...
No, I am essentially a human fish in terms of memory, so there's no possible way... I mean, if I'd be concerned if that's the thing I remembered, but the first thing, I just Googled whispering phobia, and it was... Phobia is not perhaps the right word, but it came up with the goods on Google.
It came up.
Well,
I don't want to belittle that in any way, but as that
you're gonna.
No, I'm not.
No, I know you're not.
It is obviously a very specific.
I would though really have enjoyed if you'd gone. I don't want to belittle that in any way, but fuck you and fuck your partner. Like I would have quite enjoyed.
I wouldn't do that. I mean, fuck anyone who doesn't like a Plague Tale Requiem a little bit. But I mean,
I like
in all fairness,
games more modern than 2008.
No, I accept.
Sip a cider afterwards as well. That was beautiful.
I'm just ignoring it. I'm just ignoring it. Some of the games we've seen on Lyle's list, I don't even need to argue about the Requiem.
Bring back freezer pots.
Spunky pot.
God, no.
I would listen. Look, we don't need. I don't think we even need to have the chat yet. I think Chris Hyde and myself will back Mick's locking of that. Like
100%.
Like the audio in that game is maybe my favourite bit of the game.
I would like to talk about it at some point, but for me, it's a lot.
I think we'll discuss the game later.
But for me, I think the audio is the best part of the and more cider, hopefully. I think the audio is my favourite facet of a Plague Tale Requiem. Like I think I will remember the. Yeah, but I remember the soundtrack. Like I remember the audio stings for when the rats come. I remember.
I mean,
the emotion of it.
I mean, you play that game with a headset. And
I did,
And there are some moments in that. I mean, and it's not just that. It's the girl who plays Amicia. I said this to you when I was reviewing it. The girl who plays Amicia is incredibly good. Like I genuinely believe
the voice acting of Amicia is outstanding.
For a girl who has stood, or a woman who has stood and recorded that in a booth or whatever she was doing. You know what I mean? This is not like the breathlessness of it when she's sneaking, or the tiny little emotional tremors in her voice and things like that. It's spectacular.
And there are quite a few moments that are frankly grim, right? There's a few you could probably think of off the top of your head, and they all, I mean, I don't know what it's like to trawl through a river of bodies or whatever, but like there's you believe it, don't you? And like you say, that's from a booth, and that it's just it's so good and so believable.
To counter that slightly, I did see sort of reports afterwards of people were like, what happened to their French accents?
I did think that
her accent did because it was a little bit of a Scarlet Witch sort of thing going on, I think, where they sort of dialed back the Frenchness. I don't know if that's an issue that I.
Oh, it didn't bother me. I'm not saying it bothered me. I'm saying that's Well, has anyone else got a lock? Has anyone else just so we can start? Chris White. Oh, yeah, okay.
Now, like Mick, there are two that I would lock, but I'm going to talk about one that I don't think is a guaranteed, and that's the Callisto Protocol.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm totally with you.
A lot of games were mentioned in the soundtrack, and the music and stuff like that. The subtlety of the music in this, there's not a lot. I can't remember a single theme or melody, but
not musically, no.
One of the things about the music is it's used as a way to make you aware of when there are enemies coming, or like when the music kind of softly dials off, then the enemies stop coming. But that's not the effects, the sound effects of every single bit of this game are like phenomenal.
I can't think of a game that's maybe behind me as much as physically go like that, because the audio. It's
just like with Alien Isolation, it's the rattling of the pipes or the hissing of some gas, or the way there's that level with all the steam that's kind of, and it filters in very much of the visuals, which you'll get to. But there's that scene where there's the steam just covering everything, and the lights are flickering, and you just see that body in the background, and you can hear them. You can hear these creatures all over the place. Doesn't mean they're going to pop out, and that's another thing they do. They don't. Jump scares don't exist really.
Only that one enemy that they.
No, but they're everywhere, and you never know where you are. So when you hear something, you don't know whether it's going to come out or you're going to be fine for the next 2 or 3 minutes. And it's just the little attention to details in everything, every single sound that you hear, whether it's when you're outside on the planet and that you can hear the snow falling and you hear weird machinery clanking in the background, or the voice acting, to be fair to it, it's not amazing, but it's there's certain characters I think are really good in it. Like Danny, for example. And Mick, I know you watch The Boys, but it's Kimiko. And obviously you don't hear her in The Boys because she don't talk. But she's a great actor. And even Josh Duhamel, the guy who plays Jacob, they all it's really strong.
He's been in Transformers and such.
Yeah. And I didn't know it was him at first because he looks old as fuck. But it's a great cast. The sound effects and the sound design is phenomenal. I mean, I never played it with headphones, so God only knows.
I refused. So that's what I was going to add, is that I've been playing games with headphones more when they're on PlayStation because of the 3D audio and wanting to get that experience. I kept thinking I should, but even without them, like I say, when there's clanking and stuff of and this is the thing, they do the clanking thing and it makes me go almost look behind myself for real. But they don't then do the jump scare thing, so you are on edge because of the noise of the surroundings all the time, because you kind of are used to a jump scare or something happening, and
just
they don't do it.
The realism and the whirring of the mechanics, and when a body goes through them and you just hear it crunch and it's fucking horrible, but it's just so.
Cut, guys. This
it's
is
not.
sounding
It's not.
This is my lock.
Oh, right. Okay, I misunderstood. Sorry. Yeah.
No, this is a lock. This is an absolute lock.
That's why I would say, although it's kind of came out at the tail end of the year.
No, it's only you and I played it, and it's at the time we're recording. It's not been out very long. No, and that's understandable. And it's got. I will say it's got problems, but audio is not one of the problems.
No, the way it looks and sounds are two of the biggest strong points it's got.
100%.
I cannot take the stress of horror games.
No, and this is quite in that respect. Well, we're not going to get into that here, but it is a horror game. It is survival horror. Soundtrack for me is definitely great. It's not that memorable a soundtrack, but the audio design overall, in terms of best overall audio, has to be at least. I know it's only going to be me and Chris trying to fight for it, but it has to make a 5. It has to make a 5.
On your side, it's fine.
I've a lock. Go on, Mick.
Oh no, I was just going to say, is anyone going to argue to lock Rainbow Six Extraction?
Yeah. So my lock was. There's a game on this list.
What your lock would be?
No, I think everyone has, but I also think everyone else would lock that as a game too. So it's sort of like I'm just going to say it. God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah,
I don't feel like I need to fight for that here because I would be stunned if that isn't in our list. So with that in mind, like I wanted to pick a different game that I feel would be a lock. And for me, that is Rainbow Six Extraction because of the situational audio and, again, how important that is to what is ultimately a co-op stealth game.
Oh, great atmospherics are superb in that game.
That's what I'm getting at. Like, you can hear the enemies. It creeps you the fuck out. You squelch through that tar-like mess.
Unless you're playing with Mick.
Well, no, he goes gung-ho and fucks it up. But yeah, I mean...
fucking Mick's like...
that's Nick.
Charge!
But in fairness...
like being scared.
In fairness, that is not Mick's fault. You know what you're getting when you take on a Mick. Yeah. So, is it best audio? I mean, I really like that game a whole lot. A whole lot. I couldn't tell you a thing about the soundtrack. The voices are all from Siege, essentially, because it's the same characters.
Okay, I'll ask you the same question you asked earlier then. Because you championed Overwatch 2. Which wins? Which would you argue with most? Overwatch 2 or Rainbow Six Extraction? Which, if you had to only lock one of them, which one would you lock? Because maybe I think at this point the other one is not a lock. Yeah,
I don't think both of those are making it, are they?
So I do think that's been those have been your ones.
The thing is I probably would vote for Overwatch 2. However, I actually think there's more people on the pod here that would actually want Extraction.
The tactics.
I would only.
I'm saying Overwatch 2. I just think that's not going to work because I feel like
I would only because I've played Rainbow Six Extraction and I can speak to its audio, or I can't with Overwatch 2. But that doesn't necessarily mean that.
Well, would anyone cut it? Would anyone cut Rainbow Six from this list currently?
It would out of my games, it would be in the top 5 from that list. But that's because it's one of the games.
No, but it's not. What I'm saying is, from the list as we have it, would you cut it as based on the room, as it were?
Yeah, probably. Okay. Because I don't think you've necessarily argued. Again, like yesterday, I think you've been a little bit more passionate with Overwatch 2.
I can't with Rainbow Six because the thing is in the back of my mind, I cannot not know that people suspected this was going to be... Well, it kind of came from them doing a limited time mode in Siege, which broke out into this bigger thing, and then they made a game based on it. So I cannot get it out of my head that there's voice lines, audio, like the audio is still the audio, like it is still phenomenal. I think it is, but at the same time, I'm conflicted because this is so much better with friends cooperatively than it is any other way, whether that's solo, whether that's with randoms. It is better with your friends, which means you're talking and kind of talking over some of the audio. Yeah, and I just, to me,
because I really enjoyed this game.
Yes,
and it's for me, it's one of those games. It's probably one of the few that we play. That if you said to me right now,
I'd play it now. Yeah,
tonight. 100%. I'm not. Do you want to go and play something? I'm like,
100%. It's still installed. It came out January?
January, yeah.
And it is still on my PS5.
Really early.
Yep.
So, I wonder if that's clouding my judgment in terms
of
another category we might talk about.
This is how I feel the same.
I get what you're saying around, like, you've got to listen, but the same is true of something like
of every first-person game.
Before, and the Overwatch footstep stuff. It's like, so I get it, but do I feel passionately about it for best audio? And I think not for that reason. Yeah. For lots of other specific personal reasons, I feel very passionate about that.
Again, there is another list that this might feature more strongly.
I think we will talk more passionately about.
I think we can remove
and slag Mick off a lot more in.
Yeah, I think we can remove it for now.
I can take it.
Yeah, unless anyone's got any problem with it. I'm hovering over the button. We're down to 6, so really it is just about one game that needs to come off this list. And then
we haven't talked about one of the games.
Yeah, we haven't actually.
Which one? No, we haven't. And
Horizon.
think that might be the cut.
Yeah, because that's an obvious one, really. I mean, it's a good, like, again,
I've kept very quiet on it. Just
solid voice acting.
Because you're worried.
Well, no, because it's one of those games, I think, that, again, it's a Sony game. And
it's the sum of its parts.
It does some wonderful stuff. But
I will say, like, I'm not necessarily saying I'm not unhappy with it cutting or whatever, but like, I will say, the voice acting is very good in that game. I think that's kind of goes without saying. I do also like the fact that it's a bit like what we've said and what we will say. I think with things like God of War, I think there's a lot of stuff in there that doesn't need to be in there in terms of dialogue,
mechanical noises and stuff as well.
No, sorry, I wasn't even going to talk about that, but yes,
okay.
But like the dialogue, situational dialogue, depending on what missions you've completed and
that's true,
stuff
actually.
like that.
Yeah.
That is.
See, I would say though that's a game that tells its story less with audio than it does with its visuals. Like a lot of the storytelling in the Horizon games is the world, is what you can see. You know, you fill in the gaps yourself. It's one of the. I mean, it's a spectacular world.
The thing is for me with Horizon is that I love that game, and that game seems to get like there's almost. At this point, there are rumors, right? There are rumors that there is DLC planned for this game, and that
as
it's
Breath
released.
of the Wild 2 comes out,
and it's like someone stop them, them.
Oh.
Just push it back.
Just whatever. It can be ready. Just don't do it. But like we don't know because it is purely rumors. However, I feel the thing that I think of when I think of Horizon Forbidden West is that how playable it is, and it's like it's the sum of all of its parts. It's how it looks, how it plays, how it feels, how it sounds, and everything. But there is no singular element of that design where I'm like, the audio is the best. On this other, like we can talk about it. We've got to. God of War Ragnarok is an example for me of I think that's got the best voice acting that has ever been in a video game, ever, anywhere, ever in the history of video games. I think that is the best voice acting, right? I can't say that about Horizon. I can't say Horizon, but it's got the best soundtrack or the best ambient noise. I can't. And that's not to say it's bad, because it would be number 6 at this rate.
Incidentally, I agree about God of War.
I don't think anything even fucking comes close to the voice acting in God of War. Like, especially as you get later in the game, and the sort of character growth comes into it. We're really gonna have to be careful with spoilers on this one. We're not going to spoil it yet, so don't turn off. But as the game draws to a close and the character which is normal for any game, the character development progresses as you play through a game. The voice acting, especially from the Kratos voice actor, is. I think we are now at the point where it's like, now that needs to be given some sort of fucking Oscar for acting, because it is. I've never heard voice acting, not just voice acting, like the kind of emotive noises.
I think it's more as well.
Voice acting.
We will talk about some of this in
we will.
MVC.
No, that's right. We're getting too close to. Yes,
but it's like you said about that though. Like, it's such a gruff voice, and yet
it's a brilliant voice.
Emotion in it though.
I would also argue as well that it isn't even just that character.
No, not at all.
And I'm not even talking about main characters. There are some secondary character.
Yeah, to be clear, I'm not saying Kratos' voice acting is the best. I'm saying this game has the best voice acting.
Yeah, no,
not just Kratos, to be clear.
I'm saying it's not just because of
also some of that will come up in other
there
categories
are other
because
which are outstanding.
But a lot of that comes from the direction in that game, which we'll discuss in other categories. But the direction in that game is absolutely peerless, I think.
Well, so we've locked Ragnarok. What are we doing about?
Situational dialogue in Horizon is, I can't remember any of it.
Nor can I. But
it's
it was a lot longer ago.
Oh, I best go here and do this, or else this won't happen. Or, oh man, I best go and check on this. Whereas I remember countless conversations I have with Mimir, who is.
I love about God of War. I love about the way they do that thing where you get in a boat to go somewhere, and he goes,
"I fucking think it's
brilliant." That thing you were saying earlier on, carry on, and it's like fucking hell.
Because obviously they did it in God of War, and we praised it then, right, with the boat stuff, right?
Enough now. It doesn't just stop the conversation. Kratos says, "Enough now."
Enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, look, we don't need to talk about any God of War. What we need to do is cut a game from this list. That's what we need to do. So we're at the point. Well, let's go around the room. You've just said so. That's one vote for Horizon. Chris White, what's your vote for cutting from this list?
Xenoblade, because I haven't played it.
Lyle Carr. I don't know why I'm saying your name. There's not another Lyle here. Sorry, Lyle.
There isn't. I'm the one of the ones you don't need to do that with.
Yes.
I'd probably say Horizon as well.
Okay. Chris Hyde.
Horizon.
Doesn't really matter. Mathematically, my vote doesn't count, but I would have gone for probably Overwatch.
I was umming and ahhing between those two.
Because I just don't think anyone cares about Overwatch the way I care about Overwatch. But then nobody seems to care about Horizon.
What I will say is, the reason why I went Horizon is because it sounded like at least one person was really passionate about the audio, whereas everyone else was a bit, not ambivalent, but like you say, it's more like it's less standout than...
No one seemed to jump up and down for Horizon, whereas you did champion Overwatch, so I think fair.
But Overwatch 2 is 5th, isn't it? It's 5th.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I'm happy with that order.
I'd probably argue that Xenoblade is 4.
I think that's where...
I mean, I haven't played the Callisto Protocol, so I can't argue.
No, but it literally just came out a week ago.
No, of course. But like, so I can't argue between those two, but I definitely want the other two at 1 and 2. So
I disagree with that list, but I think it's very close. I think we all know why I disagree with it, so I'm not even going to bother saying it. But I think that is very close for me. I just think there's 2 that are the wrong way round.
Is it 1 and 2 that are the wrong way round?
Yes, for me, that's the wrong way round.
See, for me, that list, I like that list.
I don't...
Because I do think, and for the reason being that I can't knock God of War, so this is not me saying that this is not me putting it down in any way, really. But I think that the audio plays more of a vital role in Requiem than it does in Ragnarok. Because I do think that...
Well, hang on. Sorry, Mick. Before we get into... Because it sounds like we're getting close here. Does anyone disagree with 3, 4, and 5's positioning? That's the Callisto Protocol in 3rd, Xenoblade
yes, but not enough to throw out the pram.
Are we generally at a consensus that the argument here is the order's correct, but what wins? Is it a Plague Tale Requiem or is it God of War Ragnarok?
Yeah, I think
that's right. Yeah,
I think that's the place we're at.
Okay, just want to be sure. Sorry, Mick, carry on. So you're
no. I just think that like as great. I've been playing God of War Ragnarok with headphones again, and it's fucking just I lose myself in it. I do, but I also did the same with the Plague Tale, and I felt like the audio is more like I'm not saying that you could take the audio away from God of War Ragnarok and it'd still be great. It would, but I think that it's more of a vital piece of what Plague Tale Requiem.
Strongly disagree, and I will, and this is going to sound like bullshit and a cop out, but I have got Chris here that can back me up if what I'm saying they believe is true or not. The reason I disagree is because the way, and you will have experienced some of this, I know you haven't finished Ragnarok, but the way that story develops, the way the characters develop, the audio just starts to play more and more of a role in how emotional the game makes you personally feel. Like, if you were to say, I played 5 hours of Ragnarok, sounds great, it's amazing, I'd go, you're right. If you play the entirety of it and see the credits and some of the moments, certainly towards the end of that game involving... I really don't want to spoil it at this juncture.
No,
I really don't.
I don't think you have to. I think... so.
But look, I'm not... I can't argue with that. So
No, but that's what I feel is a bit unfair. I feel like I'm almost cheating.
No, but I agree with both of you, and it's really irritating me, to be honest, because, like... I agree with Mick in the sense of if you have to say, like... Talk to me about why Plague Tale Requiem is amazing. The first thing you're going to talk about is the audio.
Because I'm not even talking about the voice acting. I'm talking about that
level
of constant, like the tension that the soundtrack, that the audio effects create without anybody talking, without anything boom. But sometimes you can just be creeping through an area for 15 minutes of gameplay and hear that little audio cue with the rats or something in the background, and you'll go under a torch and it's flickering and the guards are in the back. All that sort of stuff is ambient storytelling. It's more than just it's really good voice acting or it's really good like the emotion in this, that, and I'm not discrediting that in God of War, But I'm saying that if I'm going purely by the audio, and I'm not just talking voice acting,
I'm not. No,
or the swells of a score. I'm talking just the ambient sound. When you take all the other stuff away, when you take all the dialogue away, when you take the soundtrack out of it, we take all that stuff away, and you've just got a young girl in a courtyard surrounded by rats and guards, and it's hell on earth. I think
they're such different atmospheres, though.
It is, and this
is
what's
such
hard.
Different atmospheres. One's going for tension, one's going for bombast.
Yeah, and exactly, and it's like it's different uses of audio, and that's why it's so hard, because literally what you just said, Mick, is exactly true. But those instances don't exist in God of War, and so it's like it's.
Well, look, I'll tell you what. I'm happy if we vote and that we do it that way, because I can't argue against God of War Ragnarok because I fucking love it, and I'm not going to do.
Yeah,
so,
I feel like you're if we say, let's say we, and Jesus Christ, there's not that much between these two.
No, there is not.
Fair play. But I feel like if we give this to A Plague Tale, I don't know when you'll finish. You might have even finished Ragnarok by the time this comes out. But I feel like this is the one where you'd come back, especially after some of the late game stuff, and you go, shit, we got that wrong. Yeah. I really do, and that I can't be sure, and you can't. And like I said, it feels unfair. It feels unfair to say that. No, you can't.
My own argument, so
which is why it does.
And I finished both, and I know what he's saying.
Like, I'm happy to vote, and if it and what would be. I'm not. I mean, it's if it's 2, it's 2.
But the thing is, even if I literally spoiled
something exceptional,
just to be clear, I'm not going to spoil it. But even if I did, I wouldn't do it wouldn't do justice what you would experience firsthand. It would be pointless. Would be pointless spoiling it to tell you, because
it's really hard, because you are comparing different aspects of audio. That's fundamentally what we're doing here. And it's like, well, which ones do we prefer?
But I mean, we like that on the whole list. I mean, the audio.
No, but for me, it comes down to the fact that I will, stand here and say I think that God of War Ragnarok has the best voice acting that has ever been in a video game, and I think that's quite a big statement to make. There's been a lot of games. I haven't played every one of them.
No, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. I would say that the second best voice acting of the year is Plague Tale Requiem. So it's like, it's really like, I don't even know which way I'm going to vote when you ask me which one I want to be number one. I'm just
that sets it up nicely, as I'll come to you last then. I think that's...
thanks.
I'll judge where it's going and see. So my vote's for God of War. My vote's for God of War. Mick's is for Plague Tale, isn't it? So it's 1-1, and it's down to Chris White.
God of War.
2-1 to God of War. Lyle Carr? No.
Well, Lyle's going to go for God of War because he
has to. Yeah,
no,
this
isn't going to work. So why are we even talking?
Yeah.
So let's Chris. Go on.
It is.
Go on. Let's do it anyway. Do it anyway. Lyle.
Who's doing it? Am I going? Okay. God of War.
Yeah, I forgot literally, even though we discussed it. And Chris. It's a bit. This is again a bit like Strictly Come Dancing. You would have had the casting votes, but
it's not that I don't care, because there's so much we'll talk about God of War in moments and various other things that I really do agree with Mick on some of that audio in Plague Tale.
And I do too. I absolutely agree with you, but I just cannot get past.
I think it's a very close for different reasons, 1 and 2. I really do. But I'm happy with it. I am.
Okay. Right. It's in the books. Going, gone. 5th place, I'm surprised to say this, but Overwatch 2. 4th place, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Actually thought both of those would never get anywhere, if I'm honest with you. 2 games I like, thought would get nowhere near it. The Callisto Protocol in 3rd, A Plague Tale Requiem 2nd, and the best audio is God of War Ragnarok. Well, it's time to look at best visuals, and last year, I'll just give you the winners. The winner was, in fact, Returnal, with It Takes Two, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Scarlet Nexus, and Kenna Bridge of Spirits as the runners-up in that order. Nominations this year. Nobody Saves the World, The Last of Us Part 1, Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course. Am I just reading the list from the last one again? Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. No, I'm not. Lego Star Wars, The Skywalker Saga, Ghostwire Tokyo, Horizon Forbidden West, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Elden Ring, The Quarry, DNF Duel, The Callisto Protocol, Shin-Chan, Me and the Professor... Shin-Chan, Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation.
Is that DLC for Freezer Pops?
God of War Ragnarok, A Plague Tale Requiem, and Pentiment. A lot of T's. Get the pop filter going.
Okay.
Elden Ring.
I'll get rid of
I don't
it.
want to cut that yet. No. Because it has.
Come on.
There's too much good stuff. Oh, yeah, but what are you talking at visuals? Can you remember the moments where you got onto the cliffside and you could just see the entire fucking world?
Can't be cutting that.
No, we're not cutting
What?
that.
What?
Are
you joking?
Whether we cut it first or sixth before first, like it.
Yeah,
all right, fine.
Lego Star Wars.
There were some great visuals in Elden Ring. Well, you thought Elden Ring looked shit, did you?
I know what.
No, I
you did
don't think
last
it was one of the
summer.
best
Like,
visuals of the year. I really don't. Sorry.
I think there were moments in it where there were.
Okay, there were moments in all of these games. That's why they're on the list. I don't think Elden Ring is one
down,
of.
People.
No, I'm just saying. You asked the question.
And I don't think that gets cut straight away. I think you're taking the piss if you cut that straight away.
I don't. I'm not saying it's a bad game.
Oh no, you're not. But
it's probably
not that nice.
It's probably their second best looking game, but I don't think it's a top 5. Fine, we'll leave it for now.
I think again, visual storytelling of that game. Things like when you get into Millennia's arena, or I mean, there's so many bits in that game that are just for the sake in terms of visuals. It's got some really fucking incredible diversity in the landscapes and where you go. I know there's a lot of stuff where.
No, you're right. I like how the way you fight the same bosses over and over again as well. That's pretty.
But now
diverse.
you are taking the piss because you're just being facetious, like you do when you want to cut a game. It's not.
I do want to cut the game. I suggested
that game straight away.
Right, stop.
I literally suggested I wanted to cut it. It wasn't a joke. Fine. This that one.
I think
Pentiment.
Yeah. I would cut Pentiment immediately.
Yeah, but you don't care about Pentiment.
Because it just looks like...
Pentiment might as well be called Fuck Chops. You don't care about Pentiment whatsoever.
No,
I mean, I do want to hear about it, though, because...
It's kind of an interesting look.
On a screenshot, because I haven't played it, so on a screenshot, I haven't seen a video of it. Like, I'd be interested
All right, sorry. I meant to do a video review.
Stop sniping. It's fine, right?
This.
I'm keen to hear from Chris White on this
because it looks like a Monty Python.
Did I put this on the list though?
Me.
I don't know.
I don't know, mate. I honestly
don't think
don't
I did.
remember.
But
it's too late. You want to hear from you about it. Yeah.
But,
who put it on the list then?
Don't know, man. But
It must have been me. I must have just thought that's an interesting looking game. I'll stick it on for some
it looks
maybe.
good what they do with it, but there's a lot more games on this list that do something great, especially Elden Ring.
Do you know what? There is one thing worth mentioning about it or discussing about it is that so the way the text appears, the cursive writing and it appears differently per character, doesn't it?
That's quite cool.
It is, but I turned it off. So I've seen people talking about this, and I'm like, I found that really hard, and I'd like to. It's a very. I mean, it's a visual novel, isn't it? Let's face it. Predominantly, you do move about, but it's kind of a Western visual novel, isn't it? Really, and so I found it quite hard to concentrate anyway. And having the writing be cursive and flowering and changing, I actually found that distracting, and so I just changed the text to be like generic text for everyone. So I did, it's a nice looking game, but like it doesn't hang with the rest of these, does it?
I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, again, you said I don't give a shit. Kind of don't, but look, I have seen the game in motion, and it does it just reminded me of those bits in the Monty Python films where they were forced to eat Robin's minstrels, and then it's like, that.
So we're cutting Pentiment.
And then the artist had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Bloody weather. Yeah. So...
Okay, Pentiment's gone. Right, I've got one. Elden Ring.
This time, I reckon it might go.
That's that. I won't do that gag again. Come on. So
what's the bit for this one? Is it?
Should we talk about Last of Us Part 1 now and decide whether we are we having it on this list or not? Not from a perspective of does it make the list? Is it a cut? Do we want it on this list? It is a new game. It's based on the old game. It's a remake. Do we want it on this list? Would it be a top 5 game on this list anyway?
I think there's probably, for me, 6 games that I'd probably put above it. But I've only seen it. I haven't played it. I've seen it I know what it looks like. I've seen it in motion and that, but I've not
So I'm just mentally going through.
But
yeah, there's 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 I would personally put above it, but only because of the familiarity of it.
I think if that was the first time you saw it, imagine that was the first time you saw
Yeah,
The
but
Last
it might.
of Us.
It is for some people, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel
don't
like
know
it's
if
had
it's
its
fair
due
to
in that
cut it.
list.
Maybe, but then again, they did produce it. You know, they did put the work in. They did. It's not just a reskin, is it? I mean, it does it deserve its due again? Even if only for the sake of, I mean, if it pops up in best story again, I'd probably say, well, we've been through this. But I mean,
it just feels slightly disingenuous to cut it from, let's say, best story or best visual, or best audio, and no, we're going to keep the visuals because it always has been best visuals whenever the game.
Yeah,
I mean, Chris White.
It looked great in 2013.
Exactly.
It hit PlayStation 3, you know.
Chris.
I wouldn't be sad to lose it from that list. That's a strong list.
I'm just amazed. Like, I'm not saying we should keep it. But I'm just amazed we've not gone after other games on this list.
No. The reason, to be clear, the reason I suggested this one now is not because I want to cut it, because I think we need to, before we get deep into the list, decide whether this is included in the list or not.
I would say it has some of the best visuals of the year, hands down, but it's not gonna. It won't stay. It won't. Even for me.
I think I think recency bias, if nothing else, of a lot of these other games are going to push it out. I think I probably put it on the list because it's one of the best looking games of the year. But I think even my list, as I look at it now, I think just the recency bias of all these other games being newer to me, even if it's a case of they are newer in that although I haven't played The Last of Us Part 1 before, you kind of had. You knew it. You knew what was to come. You knew what was to expect, and you are kind of playing it as if going, "Wow, this looks great now." I just feel I don't know if it would make my 5.
Well, it wouldn't make my 5 because it wouldn't. I mean, maybe that's the vote. Maybe if it's not going to make anybody's 5, I mean, it's obviously going to make Chris's, I guess, but maybe not because there's a lot of good stuff on there.
I don't think it does.
I don't.
It might just 6 or 7, I think, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm with you. Probably like 6, 7, maybe 8 at a push. For
it's one of those games that if it was a top 10, it'd slam into 6.
Oh god, probably,
but, you know, I think if you lose it, it's not the end of the world because there's some great games to discuss on this list. Not necessarily Elden Ring. There's some other really, really, really good stuff on there. So, yeah, I think maybe cut it.
Does anybody want to keep it for now?
No.
Nope.
It's really you and me, Chris. No, let's go.
No.
Okay. So Elden Ring.
Oh, go on.
No. I promise you I will not do the joke again. That is it. I'm done.
We already promised once.
I know, but I'm promising for real this time. That was podcast Adam. Now I'm real Adam, and I promise.
Let's talk about Shin-Chan.
Okay. Let us talk about Shin-Chan, me and the professor on a summer vacation.
Because you almost won us over with freezer pops with the ejaculation.
I did.
So, no, you didn't.
You almost won Mick over.
Is there a visual metaphor for like
I downloaded it,
and that's why it's been best visuals?
No, so Shin-Chan is for anyone who doesn't know, the character is
everyone
is the it's like a really it's a very long running anime about a little boy who's basically naughty and farts at everything and shows his arse at everything and stuff.
You weren't far off, Chris, with the queef comment.
You weren't a million miles away, to be honest. But what's so good about this Shin-Chan game? I'm not going to say the whole name every time. That takes too long. Is I think for me, it's sort of the best adaptation of an anime to a 3D video game. It's really striking looking. It's really colourful, and then it has a very sort of familiar village setting where you get to explore every little nook and cranny, and it's lovely visually. It's not going to make a top 5 because only I've played it, and I mean there's been lots of really nice looking games this year, but it definitely deserved us a shout out. It's a really striking looking game.
I just googled it to have a look actually because I haven't seen it, and it does look very pretty. It looks fucking weird, Lyle. I mean,
it's quite weird.
I mean, there's a T-Rex there, and there's a kid farting in the next picture. I don't think I couldn't play that.
He's already cut it. I wouldn't worry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
You don't have to play
he said
it either.
while you were looking at the images, he literally said he wants to cut.
His mouth is weird. I don't like him.
I mean,
Lyle,
it's an unusual style.
Yeah,
Whoa.
Lyle.
Okay, sorry, I just wanted to be clear.
Philippi. Yeah, okay.
So we talked about this in best audio, and Lyle, I think, kind of does the same thing apply again for Cuphead?
I mean, I think it pretty much does, doesn't it?
Didn't it just look the same as Cuphead
pretty much,
always?
yeah. I mean, it's
Which
DLC.
is great.
Well,
I mean, don't get me wrong.
No, because they
style.
were very clear about like there's X amount more animations in the new stuff than there ever was in the other ones.
Spilt that.
It does look
Well,
really good as well. Like
it's phenomenal.
every bit of motion is so fluid. But again, realistically, if this was the first time I'd seen Cuphead, I would think this is amazing. This definitely should be in there. And it almost, for me, it probably would make a top 5 just because I really like how it looks. And I do think it is. I do think most things about the Delicious Last Course are a little rung above the original Cuphead. Yeah. And delicious. So it would be on my list, but I also very much see the argument of like it's not like it's like a million miles ahead of what Cuphead already was.
I think if you're not fighting to the death for it, it probably can go. Like I think that's fair.
Because when we come down to a top 5, there's not a fucking chance, though, is there? Like we can be honest about that as well.
You say that, but in terms of like unique.
I'm not looking at these. I mean, look, if we're going for best visuals, then Call of Duty wins it because it's got that level in Amsterdam, which looks like fucking real life. But that's not what. Yeah. But that's not what appeals to me always in a video game. Like there's games on here like Nobody Saves the World, like Cuphead, that appeal to me because of the stylistic and aesthetics. You know what I mean? Like
Can I offer up a different cut, but for a similar reason, but I think it might be an easier one. And I haven't played it, so it is a question. Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, what does that do for Lego visuals? Serious
unreal.
question.
It looks unreal in spots, that game. I do think it's never making a top 5, but it looks unreal at times, that game.
In what way, though? Because
it's difficult to... I mean, Chris, you played it. It almost tricks you into believing this is what the films look like, if that makes sense. Like, if someone had told you this is what they look like, you'd go, yeah, they look great.
It's less Lego and more actual Star Wars, like Star Wars movies. There's like the characters are all bricky, like, and there's certain bits that are, but like walking around like Tatooine, for example, just looks like a really good-looking Tatooine. But like, I don't know. I don't think just because it looks that way, it deserves to be in a top 5.
It doesn't make the top 5, but it is a really good-looking game.
Yeah,
like it shines, like you know what I mean. Like the metallics, they're still bricks.
Yeah, I remember how
it truly shines.
Certain levels like really pop. Yeah, it's really good.
That's gone then. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It's one of mine. Yeah. I love how that game looks. I think it's fucking charming.
It does look lovely.
Like when he sucks things.
Yeah.
All of them. Like, you know, like there's so many. It's kind of almost, we're veering into best moment territory almost. But like when when he certain things he sucks up and you're just like, oh, that's so. The charm is off the scale.
Yeah, I mean, it's
such a lovely game.
I think you said it in the review. It is the quintessential. It's not a cop out in this game about the quintessential Nintendo charm stuff.
No, right? It really isn't.
That's what this is, and the visuals completely marry up to that, don't they?
Yeah.
It's very much part of what makes it so just lovely and makes you smile. But is it best?
No, I ain't.
No. But it is nice.
Christ.
I have another one.
Yeah.
Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yeah, I put this on the list.
I agree it should be on the list. It's a very good looking game. It's a very good looking game. When I'm looking at some of the other games on this list, though, in terms of, I don't think, aside from being a very good looking game, that's kind of where that. I'm trying to think what else I would say.
It does a lot of stuff. Like I would cut a Plague Tale from this list before I cut Ghostwire.
So would I. Yeah.
Because I think Ghostwire Tokyo has a very
It's unique.
Like,
it's got a
anything
surrealist
else.
sort of vibe.
Yeah, no, I agree
like
with
it's
the
Tokyo,
style.
but it's surrealist Tokyo, and like all the anime. And in terms of gameplay, the animations of the movements of the hand, you could almost go, "That's fucking annoying." Actually, I wish they did it quicker. But the actual, in terms of visual, the animations of the movements of the moves and the.
I think that's better looking.
Actually,
than a couple
scratch
of these
what
games.
I've just. Sorry, yeah, there's stuff I've remembered about that game
Like
now.
the enemies and stuff, the designs of them, and the mannerisms that they walk, the speeds, and
some of the stuff where that goes like fucking manifold garden on your ass, like halfway. Like,
because
scratch
I
that
play,
moment.
yeah, because
I'm not saying it
it,
makes the top 5, but I'm not sure it gets cut.
No,
with this
yeah, no.
venture.
I don't
Sorry,
remember.
I've remembered stuff now that
I don't remember much about that game, but the visuals. Let's put it that way.
I remember collecting the little paper things and
the
putting them in the phone booth.
24,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that maybe is a stay for now, because I do think that's a strong one on there.
Okay. What about the Quarry?
I'm eating my words
what about the Quarry?
That was my next question. The Quarry.
So I think this probably is a very similar conversation to audio in terms of that. I think it's by far their best looking game. I think the thing that I remember talking about when I reviewed it is the kind of, they really capture like as well as looking nice, they really capture like the mannerisms of those characters and the way that they act. It's not just like the character models themselves. Like I really feel like the way those characters interact and how they look as they're moving around and react to things is really good. It's not like Ragnarok territory, to be really clear.
No, but
it is very much like you very much get different emotions from those characters because they're different personalities. You know what Supermassive quite bluntly rely on previously is word descriptions of how characters are. And actually, what they do in the Quarry is show you that a lot better.
I think that's fair. Can I offer a very reductive viewpoint on the list?
Is it going to be as blunt as your Elden Ring reductions?
More so.
Okay, great. I look forward to it. Go for it.
So we have a list here of over 10 games, I think, roughly 10 or 11 there.
Yeah.
We have to get rid of half of them. For me, and this is just very much personal, but I want to throw it out and see how you guys feel. For me, there are 3 games that stand out as being, I guess, similar in terms of what they're going for. Those games are Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, The Quarry, and the Callisto Protocol. In the
real people,
kind of realism,
things.
right?
Yeah.
And I'd feel quite uncomfortable with a God is a Geek top 5 that celebrated visuals being all 3 of them included. Now, that's not saying that they're bad, but they all go for a particular realism that the others don't. Nobody Saves the World, Cuphead, Ghostwire Tokyo, Horizon Forbidden West, Elden Ring, DNF Duel, God of War, and A Plague Tale are... Some of them are realism adjacent, but like God of War's got its own filter almost. A Plague Tale's got that sort of filter on it. I'd feel quite uncomfortable with COD and The Quarry and the Callisto all making up a top 5, 3 of the top 5, right?
And COD does people disturbingly well.
So I disagree with the statement purely because if those 3 were so good, I'd want them in the top 3. I don't think they are, but I because of.
But
what
why
else is
don't
on
you
here.
think they are then? Because they are like Call of Duty looks almost real. And the Callisto
It's
Protocol
frightening
looks
how
almost real. Like I
the
will
cut
say,
scenes in particular in Call of Duty are
So
shockingly.
to be really clear, I'm not disagreeing that this is a cut. What I'm disagreeing with is your point of we couldn't have 3.
no, I'm not saying we couldn't. I'm saying I'd feel uncomfortable because I feel like it's just celebrating games.
I kind of agree with it.
In my
I know
head,
what
games
you
can
mean,
be anything.
because
So
there is more
celebrating
than
them as
there's more than realism in visual direction. I get what
Yes.
you're saying. What I'm saying is, if the competition of non-realism visuals wasn't strong, I'd be like, well, this is
Fair.
what should be.
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of like
I'm
how it
saying.
was with It Takes Two and Best Moment last year, where we just put fucking loads of It Takes Two moments on the list. You sometimes you just
but I
have to,
think
but I
Still
don't
not
think this
quite
year
over
we
that.
are.
Just
Yeah.
to be really clear.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say, Lyle. Is that like given the competition, shall we say? Let's fuck it. I'll say it. I'll be the one people can shout out in the comments. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 looks phenomenal. Like the hype around that Amsterdam level, it's not hype. It's real. That game is
real, yeah.
is a couple of odd bits in it. Like there's someone put like, how did that car get parked there? Like did it go sideways? Maybe it fucking did. The Quarry looks great. It looks absolutely brilliant. Like no issues with it whatsoever. I even love the sort of interstitial tutorial, Fallout style tutorial thingies.
Yeah.
On this list, I'd feel if they made the list when there's stuff like Nobody Saves the World, even Ghostwire Tokyo, I'd feel like I would. If I was listening, I'd be like, it's fucking boring, isn't it?
But I think hang
boring.
on. Okay, so to be really clear, I'll say this now: we're cutting the Quarry,
right?
But I don't think it's right at the same time to just go. We have to almost disregard realism for style.
I'm not because I do think the Callisto Protocol makes the list.
Yeah.
And I can't talk to that. I think
no, fair.
But like I would champion Call of Duty over the Quarry. So like in terms of core both. 3, the Quarry goes, which I think is a delete. Delete it now.
Okay.
But
sorry, I've deleted it. I'm sorry.
Do it.
Can I
suggest...
you
want the Quarry deleted? I'll delete it. Okay, I know you. That's what you want.
Could we cut a Plague Tale Requiem? Do you think from this list? Because I do think some of the animation is a bit like, if anything lets that game down for me personally, some of the animation's not great.
Do you know what? In another year, it wins it. In another year, it wins it.
Maybe
in
it
years
does,
gone by.
But again, as I said about Elden Ring, a lot of stuff I like about Plague Tale is the world. Like, they put a lot of detail into the stuff around you. But I do think that the animation isn't always the best. I think the lip syncing was a little bit off at times, and it was distracting in places where that happened. I don't think it was. And again, it doesn't look like, there's some bits of that game where the visuals are like the bits where you're running away from the big fucking flood of rats and stuff. That was incredible. It looks incredible. Some of the ruined vistas were great, but I think that the overall, like, I didn't come away. It wasn't the visuals that blew me away with that game.
The visuals suffer in that game because they tried to make it more open. Because what the moments I think of that visually are outstanding for me are the one that Chris Hyde mentioned earlier, like when you are in the water wading through and there are bodies.
Yeah.
When the game zooms in and it's like there's a director that said the camera needs to face that way, this needs to, that game sings, right? But when they draw it back out and they go a bit more open, it's not bad.
No, but it's not as focused. And I think I think, and when I think about other games on this list in terms of when I look at, like, because, like, you know, some of the lighting and vistas and stuff, like you said, Mick, are gorgeous, but I also think there's games on this that do that equally well, if not better, and that's the best bit we can say about Plague Tale. So therefore, I kind of have to agree.
I think if anybody's got a real reason to keep it, then fair enough. But I think, because I probably would have added this to that list when we were making the list if someone else hadn't. But at the same time, I think there's a couple of games on there. Like I said, I'd even probably cut this before I cut Ghostwire Tokyo in terms of what's more unique. And so I think it's a fair cut. I think
Well, I'm hovering over the delete button. If how do you guys feel? Chris Hyde, you're the probably biggest proponent of it outside of Mick.
I think I adore this game, but I adore the visuals of at least 5 more games on this list.
I'm hearing delete. I've deleted it. It's gone.
Yeah, it's fair.
Can we talk about a game on this list that I think I
don't know what it is.
No,
what we're going for.
I was hoping somebody would tell me what it is.
Absolutely stunning game, but it is just not going to get on a GOTY.
Is it a fighting game?
It's a fighting game.
It is. So every year, or most years, we have one of the Arc System Works fighting games.
Right. Okay.
Where they look
BlazBlue or something.
But this time, this was the one time I played it because I reviewed it, and I got to kind of see in real time how much this is a game that it doesn't just, cause to say it looks like an anime isn't doing it justice. It looks like the highest quality, biggest studio made an anime, and then somehow you are able to play it, and it is fantastic. For me, it would be personally in the top 2 of my list, but I'm the only one who's played it. And
but then are there easier cuts? Because that's not always fair. If you really think that strongly,
it is an easy cut though, because whether or not Lars played it as the only person or not, no one else is going to say, well, I want that in the top 5. And there's...
Oh, maybe. I guess if it comes to a vote, it
there's so many strong things on this list already that we haven't even talked about. I mean, we've not even mentioned Horizon or God of War. We've not really gone into the Callisto or Nobody Saves the World. And yet I think all of those games I've just listed, people will be going, no, sorry, they're staying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, another thing I can't say about DNF Duel is I don't know how it stacks up to their last game. I don't know if this is like more of the same quality.
It is
really, really high.
No, it is. So, they have been at that visual
I've definitely
tier
heard
now.
That, but you know, your first time actively playing it, kind of seeing it fully in action, like it blew my mind, to be honest. But yeah, I can't say that if I had just played like the recent BlazBlue from like last year, I think it wouldn't.
I was going to say, like Granblue from 2020, Granblue Fantasy Versus was incredible. I think I probably mentioned it on that year's podcast. Superb looking.
Like that's just it. I can't say this is this incredible step forward. And if like, I mean, if we're keeping other games because they're improving and stuff, like it's fair. It would personally be very high for me, and I mean, it does look incredible. It really does. But yeah, it's a tough year as well. Like maybe it would have clung on another year, but
so we're at the stage where 3 have got to go from here.
So why is Cuphead staying?
Well, I think it's probably time to say goodbye to Cuphead, isn't it?
I don't think it's going to make it too much further. It could maybe make it to like 7th if we were really pushing it, but no, it's
look. I will say this.
Too much.
I'd rather Cuphead stayed than Call of Duty. Sorry, I would.
I kind of think they're both going to go, though, aren't they?
I could lose Cuphead, Call of Duty, and Ghostwire from what's left, and then argue about the rest. If that's just me personally, I'd be comfortable with that.
I would too, as it goes.
I think you're keeping Elden Ring a little long, personally, but sure.
I don't think I'm winning that fight.
I'm going to try.
I don't think you can not
keep it low. Don't get me wrong.
Think we can argue about Elden Ring in a minute if you really want to.
Hang on, Chris White. What did you say? You're not into that?
I said I'm 100% with Mick on that one. I can tell you why.
What dropping?
It. No, Elden. Both.
Okay,
dropping them 3
so
and
dropping
Elden
dropping the 3, dropping Cuphead, Ghostwire, and Call of Duty.
Well,
I mean, Elden Ring stays in by default then.
God.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's a fair list.
Okay with that. Like, I'm fine with dropping at least Cuphead and Call of Duty.
I'm just really happy Nobody Saves the World is sneaking into a 5.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think that's sneaking because I think that looks great.
Okay.
So
do I. I mean, I agree. But Chris Hyde's looking very serious.
No, I don't. It's difficult because I haven't played Callisto, but I'm guessing we're going to be talking about that in a minute.
Yeah.
The others I haven't played this. I've played Cuphead. I'm not saying therefore I've played it, but you know I know what we're talking about, and the others I've played.
Which one are you least comfortable losing? What's most of that frown going towards?
It's Ghostwire, isn't it?
Well, he wanted to cut Ghostwire earlier.
And then I remembered shit. The thing is, it's a good list, isn't it? It's a good 8. Let's be clear. I don't know what I cut if I protected one of them.
I was going to say if one of them 3 stays, what goes?
For me, because I haven't played it Callisto, but I can't back it up with anything factual, and I don't think that's fair. So,
and I've seen that game. Like you've seen it. You know
the lighting when you're playing Callisto on
I
the big
haven't
screen.
Seen it. I haven't played it. I think it's probably going to come through not just static images, though, right? I think.
Yeah, no, you need to see it in motion, see the way the lighting dances and plays with your mind. It's I can't.
I mean, Call of Duty, it does look stunning.
These all look. We're down to 8. They're all got lovely bottoms, as they said in Father Ted.
Do it and let's rank.
Fucking hell! This is the Heidi I like. Right, so we're down to a 5.
Fucking lock it in at those 5.
No.
That's a weird order.
Flip it and then lock it, and I'm happier. Maybe.
No, I'm still not happy.
No, I'm not happy with that either. What's number 5? It's kind of hard to say what we've talked the least about or has got detracted other than Elden Ring, which 3 people are so passionate about. I think getting that at number 5 is going to be tricky.
In terms of that list, I'd put nobody at 5.
Yeah, I think I would too.
What's that?
I think nobody
I
saves
put
the
nobody
world.
saves the world at 5.
Yeah, sorry, it's quiet. I can't really hear what people are saying.
I don't.
It's such a lovely looking game.
I don't think
but
Elden
then
Ring.
so are the others. Well,
yeah, I don't think Elden Ring should drop below.
Gorgeous to run.
I don't think Elden Ring should drop below 3.
I think it absolutely should. Yeah,
I
can't believe it made it into
because
the top
it's not
5.
as good looking as the other 3 games above.
It's just a
bit
bit grimy looking.
But we're talking visuals. We're talking the design of enemies. We're talking. There's some spectacular stuff in that game.
There's also some really average stuff that they've literally reused from our other games.
What? No game? What? Callisto reuses no assets.
No, it's a brand new IP.
No, I mean from that's it's
it goes.
Game, so.
No, I'm saying they literally reuse stuff from their old games. Not that you go back to an area that you once went to. I'm saying they literally lift stuff out of their previous titles. Like there are walking animations and shit that are from Dark Souls. That's not it's not subjective. That is factual.
No, okay, I'll give you that. I'm not going to argue that. But also, there are still some fucking striking visual stuff in that game. There are some incredible.
Hence
designs.
why it's in a top 5. But like,
you didn't want it in the top 5.
No, I didn't. I don't think it's one of the 5 best looking games of the year. I really don't. I'm not saying I don't like it. I spent 90 hours with the fucker, but I don't think it's as good looking as.
Right, but if you're just going to say it's not as good looking, like we already said, Call of Duty should probably have been number 1 if you're just going by what's good looking.
I'm using good looking as a catch-all, but I'm using it as a catch-all. Like it to me, Elden Ring's design is all their games cobbled into one. Like it's literally a game that many have said is like the defining FromSoft experience. It's all their experience brought to one. But in terms of design, there are some really shit stuff as well. There's literally the horse, the bloke on a horse, but now he's got a shield. Like there's some really lazy crap in that game.
But I think a lot of games do that stuff. A lot of games swap colours of
Ragnarok
enemies
does
and
some of that. So let's not like.
I didn't play 90 hours of Ragnarok.
What's that?
So, what's that got to do with it?
What's
You
that?
could have.
Sorry,
Because Ragnarok isn't a game that you can play 90 hours of, so you're not going to start to be seeing repeating enemies. Like they reuse bosses.
I think that's a bullshit argument. In fact, I think that works at FromSoft know that you're going to play 100+ hours, so some things will repeat.
I'm sorry, but like I think they get away with it,
and they do it again at hour 70. I don't think that's a major issue. I think there's some spectacular enemy design. And,
I didn't say there wasn't. I'm saying that across the whole experience, it has some lows.
It does have lows. Every game has lows. But
God of War doesn't. Not for me.
Well, I'm not saying that Elden Ring's better than God of War. I haven't said Elden Ring should be number 1.
I don't think the Callisto Protocol has a low when it comes to visual moments. I don't think Horizon Forbidden West does.
I don't think Elden Ring should be 3. I would have put God of War and Horizon above Elden Ring.
I think the Callisto Protocol is a better visual than Elden Ring as well. I haven't
played it to say that, so maybe that's the argument that comes to it. And Elden Ring ends at 4th. If that's what happens, where I struggle with this as well. I don't mind. I'm not going to say that Elden Ring should be higher than.
I mean, are we saying? Let's just cut through a little bit on this. Are we saying 1 and 2 is Horizon and God of War, and 3 and 4 are Elden and Callisto, and we're just arguing about which way around those two lots of games go?
I'm not sure that the number 1 isn't fairly obvious. Like, and that's just. I think God of War is probably the most striking game.
I think 1 and 2 is very close. Like very
close.
But I
do think Horizon Forbidden West is ridiculously a good-looking game.
I think Horizon. see, the comparison I want to make is between Horizon and Elden Ring, because they're both massive open worlds that you can explore at your leisure. And Horizon, like, there's a reason. Chris White, I'll bring you in here because obviously you've played as much Horizon as I have. There's a reason that Sony sort of led some of the marketing early on with the Horizon reveals when she goes underwater. Do you know what I mean? There's a reason. They fucking knew. Then there's no accidental. It's really hard for me on this one.
I think Horizon does a lot more with its visuals than God of War.
This is the thing. God of War's facial stuff.
Yeah,
animation,
and God of War, you're over the shoulder nearly all the time, so you can see that point of view. You can swing the camera and things like that, but there's not very many moments in God of War, and I don't, because I haven't seen all of it, obviously. But what I've seen, like, you know, sometimes when you just go into an area in Forbidden West and the game goes, and it's like, Jesus, like
There's
there's
a
so
moment-
that's the thing.
detail.
Like when you're in God of War, yes, all the realms look amazing, but you have to go back, go through the tree, go to the new realm. In Horizon, especially when you unlock the
Don't
Skybird,
say it. No. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it.
I'd also argue that God of War is a more intimate, like deliberately a more intimate.
Oh no! Do you know what? Sorry, Chris. It's in the market and they've shown it, haven't they?
Yeah.
I just didn't want to spoil it because that's
No.
Because
Yeah.
you're right. When you get that ability,
you can get it at any point. Get one of them at any point because.
I didn't know that. I thought it was story based.
Let's just say, all right. But basically, what I'm trying to say is, instead of running around across the whole world, you can see it a lot faster by traveling on a machine.
Yeah.
So when you go, you could essentially go from one end of the map to the other and see 3 completely different biomes, 3 completely different sets of creatures living life as if you're watching an Attenborough documentary, because they're all doing their own thing and they've all been animated specifically like that. When you get up close to fighting them, they act completely differently, and the level of detail in each machine is amazing. The world itself is phenomenal. It's a massive open world.
It's also vertical in a way that God of War isn't vertical.
But there's a lot of times when there's not really anything there, but it's still fascinating.
But yet it feels like there is.
No,
it's
but
got
what I mean
that discovery like Breath of the Wild's got, hasn't it? You want to.
I kind of meant more in terms of what to look at.
Right.
There are loads of question marks scattered around and loads of shit to do.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's just a small element of the visuals. You've got the facial animations of each character, even some of the characters that aren't Aloy or the bigger characters. Like there's so much detail gone into all the NPCs. The day and night cycle, the weather, the different weather in the different biomes, whether you're in the desert and you've got the storms, the sandstorms, and you've got the thunder, and you go to the beach and it's like the waves are crashing on and then there's a big fights, and then there's the underwater. There's literally everything that does really well.
So Elden Ring, I guess, is 4, and I'm fine if it's 4. I think it kind of.
All right, people will be like, they actually fell out with that one. It's like, no, they didn't.
No, we didn't. So, I mean, So, if Elden Ring slots into 4 here, which I think is fair.
Well, I don't know that it does, because Chris has played the Callisto Protocol and Elden Ring, and we haven't really heard.
You know, it's hard for me to define what visuals are for Elden Ring, what I perceive them to be. Like
they are so different, those two games. I mean, they are so different.
Elden Ring's open world. Like there's so much detail in everything. Like just thinking like different places that you go to in your 80 hours or 90 hours or whatever, and there's like I can never remember the names, but there's the Academy, the Magic Royal Academy or whatever.
Yeah.
And then just beyond that, there's the Renner's Rise, and there's all that, and then you go to
Caelid, like when you first get to Caelid, and it just makes you feel kind of ill.
And Lendell, where it's like a royal city, and you've got that massive stone dragon just like draped across it. And then you've got like the tiny little things you would never see unless you come across it, like the bit with the weird women and the windmills. And that church top, like,
oh God, yeah.
People might not ever see that, but like, there's so much effort has gone into making that. Now, in terms of like comparing the quality of the visuals to like Horizon, then no, not a chance. But the artwork or the design, the people who've created this world, like the design of it is amazing.
I think that was my argument,
but I think you can make that argument for Horizon because of the different tribes and the way they present themselves.
Oh, yeah, like I'm not comparing the two. Like Horizon,
I think the closest 2 games on that list are probably Elden Ring and Horizon in terms of.
Well, that's why I said I would compare them in that sort of respect.
And in that respect, Horizon, I would argue Horizon wins because it does the same thing, but also does it in maybe a more consistently. Striking way.
I just
Horizon
think
is consistently striking.
You mentioned Caelid, right? Caelid is possibly the only time in Elden Ring I genuinely felt like I was exploring a brand new place. Everything else in that game, I agree, is well done, but it does feel borrowed.
But I didn't think the lakes did. I thought the lakes were breathtaking at times. Some of the views and I didn't think that.
When you say the lakes. What you mean?
Well, when you first get to Landale and you're Landale,
I felt like I played that.
Lunia of the Lakes.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Lunia of the Lakes after the castle.
I mean, I think I sent you a screenshot of that, of my guy on a horse just looking out at that, because I was like, Jesus. And then I know this is kind of done, and it's 2022, but
I'm not saying it's bad. Just to be clear, I'm just saying.
You can go there, and the draw distance of it was just like, I mean, and things like, I just think that they, like Chris said, I think there's a lot of, and yeah, I know, and I can't argue that yes, they borrowed some of their previous designs. Some of it you probably did feel was familiar, and the dungeons did get a little bit. Oh Christ, another dungeon with a big chariot guy. But at the same time, exploring that world, it did feel like I was in different places at the time. Like I remember going through one of those chests that transported me somewhere for the first time, and I was in a completely different kind. Like I'd never seen this, and I think that happened to me 20 some hours into the game, and all of a sudden I open a chest and I'm somewhere I can't even begin to I can't even work out the topography or the geography of the place because I've never seen that yet. I think that is a good thing because that random mix of what you can come across. I don't think Horizon even does that. You know, like I could just be one minute I'm going through like a pokey little dungeon. The next thing I'm in like, I can't remember where the first place took me, but it was completely different. So I remember thinking, where the fuck do I go now? I don't even know where to go from this point. And looking at it, I was like, I don't know. I just think there's so much variety in it, and I know they overuse some stuff or reuse some stuff, should I say? But I think there's enough variety in it that I didn't get. It didn't irritate me if they reuse things, and it might have irritated you. That's fine.
It's not so much that it irritates me. I just think they get away with it a bit, whereas other developers perhaps wouldn't, and that just means. I mean, ultimately, what we're boiling this down to is I just don't think it's the third best looking game on this list. But if the consensus is that it is, then fine.
I can't argue it above Callisto in the way that I haven't played Callisto.
We agree. So Nobody Saves the World is number 5, right? That's number 5. That's where that's staying. Chris Hyde, what's number 4?
I'm in the same position as Mick, but looking at what everyone is saying. So not my opinion, but having listened to everyone and throwing my own opinions in there. Elden Ring's 4.
Chris White. Same question, I suppose.
Callisto.
Okay.
Can we have that conversation then? Because you've played both of them, Chris. I haven't, and that's why it's hard for me, to be honest, to say which one's better.
When Callisto does its visuals, like like I mentioned previously about, like there's a scene in one of the corridors I don't know where it was. It could have been a spaceship. It could have been a factory. There's a lot of areas that look similar in terms of the layouts, like very kind of Alien, Dead Spacey. But that's not what the visuals do that impresses me. It's the way it uses its environment, the way it uses the environment to build the tension and the visuals in that. So like the flickering of lights and you think you see something, or like when you're in the snow and there's a snowstorm and the things like there are creatures there, but you don't know if you saw it or not. And like,
I love that snowstorm section.
Yeah.
That's
like there's stuff like that. And like there's a scene where there is like flashing lights and it's just like you're just constantly on edge anyway, because that's what it does to you. And the gameplay is so tough. You never want to face anything. You never want anything to come at you. So when you think you see something, you instantly like, oh god, a battle's coming on, fight's coming on, I'm going to die. And it's like that's what. But it's not that a short game should have a massive, like, for the time you spend with it, the visuals are great, but it is only like 8 hours tops. And I think Elden Ring visually, I don't care where you are in that world. There's something there that's incredible. And like fighting Radahn for the first time, like that whole section is just mind blowing. And there's just so many different fights like that blew me away. And yeah, there's some of the close-ups and the chatting and stuff is old. It looks quite old, but I just think visually, for what it does on a grander scale, I would say Elden Ring beats it for me.
So if we go 4 for the Callisto Protocol and 3 for Elden Ring, what's number 1?
Horizon.
Lyle?
God of War.
Mick, what's number 1 out of Horizon and God of War, if that's the case? And while you're thinking, Chris, do you want the deciding vote, or shall I have it this time? Because
it's
going to come to your.
vote, although I think I know which way you're voting. So
I don't actually. Yeah, I really don't.
I'm struggling a bit with these.
I'm struggling because for me,
So
I feel like in my head the way I'm visualizing it is like I believe that the character detail and the character models in God of War I know I've talked a lot, far too much about fucking hands and costumes, right?
Great
the production level. We talked about this in the main pod. The production levels on the character models are fucking world class, and the character details. And obviously, a lot of that game is focused on close-up character details and interactions. That is so good, and it's so well done. And I'm almost pitching that against the stuff that Chris White was saying about the world of Horizon and the variation and the world building and the consideration. And it's like they're almost different things, because to your point, the world of Ragnarok, there isn't a world of Ragnarok. It's realms.
It's multiple realms.
Yeah,
it's a more intimate level of.
Yeah, and so when I'm thinking about the visual impact that those two games have had on me, they're very different. One's almost very close, and one's like grand wildness of scale, and it's just like, and it's really hard to pick one, and I'm struggling because of
hard as it may be.
Recency bias and just go, well, I finished God of War 3 days ago, and
let's hear Mick's vote, because we're at 1-1 at the moment. And he says he's ready to vote. So
God of War's number 1.
Okay.
There's too much in that game that I just can't. Like, you can't look away. And Horizon Forbidden West, as gorgeous as it is, I can't look away from God of War. I cannot take my eyes off the screen when I'm playing. It's spectacular.
2-1 to God of War. Chris, you said I have the deciding vote, which means you have to vote now.
He doesn't have to have the deciding vote, though.
No, I don't. I can get off.
Yeah.
No. I think, okay.
You have to just say a name of the game. Okay.
And I think because the visuals, and this is a personal thing, but for me, the visuals in that game have created a story and moments that will resonate with me longer as an individual that I will recall, I think. And therefore, that's my personal reason for calling it. But it's so close.
I should add that it is this close.
Yeah, it's a gnat's hair. And I'll be honest, not that it matters, my vote would have been for God of War, but only because I think when you get down to how close this is for me personally, you're talking about the minutiae. And there's just moments that I think of in God of War that are so influenced by Best Audio, which it won, and the visuals, that if those two weren't together on that pedestal, it doesn't. And
we'll talk about it in another category, but it's the way they work together that is so outstanding.
I don't think those moments that we will come to on day 4. I don't think they come off. So, how are you feeling, Chris?
He's muted. Chris, you're muted. Does he know?
No. How are you feeling?
He's called us all cunts, but he's muted.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, you're all. Yeah, no, I'm not angry by that.
No, I didn't think you would be
in the slightest, because like you talk about moments, and you think, like I was thinking about one particular moment, and I remember watching that unfold, as like just watching what's happening. There's so much happening all at once.
Okay, yeah.
Near the end, right?
Yeah.
Now that is, I've never seen. It's the most visually ambitious game, I would say, all year. In its big moments, in its smaller moments, the level of detail on faces and the emotions that they bring with it. It's
hands, space.
It's So fair. They're both great.
In first place,
we'll bring Hancock in it at some point.
Yeah. Best visuals goes to God of War Ragnarok with runner-up Horizon Forbidden West, and we should stress it is so close.
Yeah,
Elden Ring in
brilliant.
third place, The Callisto Protocol in fourth place, Nobody Saves the World in fifth place, which I don't think we already spoke about, but again that will have its moment later in the pod. That's day 2 in the books. That's day 2 all sorted out. Tomorrow, day 3, we will be talking about best multiplayer and best new character. So, generally speaking, we don't get very spoilery there, but there is potential in best new character. There may be some spoilers if you've played nothing of any of the games that we have to mention. Otherwise, basically, I will list off the names, and if you don't feel like, oh, I don't know who that is, let's pause, go to day 4. Well, probably don't go to day 4. Go to day 5, or listen to last year's, I don't know, whatever. It's time to say thank you to Chris, Lyle, and Mick, and to everybody else. Join us for day 3 tomorrow, as I say, for best multiplayer and best new character, and that's when it's going to start getting warmer in here, I think. So thank you, and we'll speak to you tomorrow. See you then. Bye-bye for now.